A magnitude 6.9 earthquake struck northern Cebu in September 2025. The shaking damaged homes, roads, buildings, and vital community facilities. Thousands of families were affected, and recovery did not end when the shaking stopped. That is the difficult truth about disasters in the Philippines. One powerful event can destroy years of savings in minutes. A second disaster can arrive before a family has recovered. This is not fear. This is about understanding where recovery could become hardest. Today, we examine 14 Philippine provinces facing serious and repeated disaster exposure. The risks include earthquakes, typhoons, floods, landslides, storm surges, and volcanoes. Number 1 is the most urgent entry. We are not saving the biggest surprise for the end. Stay with all 14, because one could be much closer to home. Number 1, Cebu. Cebu has already experienced how quickly a major disaster can change daily life. PHIVOLCS recorded a magnitude 6.9 earthquake offshore northern Cebu in September 2025. The earthquake produced destructive shaking across affected communities. Homes, roads, buildings, and public facilities were damaged. Aftershocks continued after the main earthquake. For a market vendor, a damaged stall can mean lost income immediately. For a family, repairs can consume savings meant for food or education, and that is where the danger becomes bigger. Cebu is not exposed to earthquakes alone. The province also faces flooding, landslides, typhoons, and coastal hazards. Local disaster councils and engineers continue improving preparedness and response. Communities also conduct drills and strengthen evacuation planning, but preparation cannot erase the cost of rebuilding. A family recovering from one disaster has fewer resources for the next. That is why Cebu starts this list. It shows how one powerful event can leave long financial consequences. Number 2. Leyte. Here, one of the greatest dangers can arrive as water. PAGASA identifies storm surge as a major coastal hazard. Storm surge is seawater pushed inland by a powerful tropical cyclone. Leyte experienced this danger during Super Typhoon Haiyan in 2013. The storm brought catastrophic winds and a devastating coastal surge. Communities around Leyte Gulf were among the hardest hit. For a fisherman, losing a boat can mean losing his livelihood. For a family near the coast, water can destroy home and income together. Since then, warning systems and evacuation planning have improved. Communities have also strengthened shelters and disaster preparedness. But geography cannot be changed. Low-lying coastal communities remain exposed when powerful storms approach. Another extreme typhoon could still overwhelm defenses in vulnerable areas, and repeated storms create another problem. Families may have to rebuild before they have recovered financially. Leyte matters because its story shows that typhoon danger is not just wind. Sometimes the water becomes the greatest threat. Number 3. Albay. Albay faces a danger that can come from above and below the mountain. Mayon is one of the Philippines' most closely monitored active volcanoes. PHIVOLCS watches earthquakes, volcanic gas, lava, and other warning signs. But an eruption is not the only danger. Heavy rain can move loose volcanic material down the slopes. This dangerous flow is called a lahar. Lahar can carry mud, ash, rocks, and water toward communities. For a farmer, that can destroy crops, roads, livestock, and farmland. A family may also need to evacuate when volcanic activity increases. Local authorities maintain hazard maps and evacuation routes. Communities around Mayon have years of experience preparing for volcanic activity. That experience saves lives. But preparedness does not remove the economic cost of repeated evacuations. Families may leave quickly, then return to damaged farms. And fertile volcanic soil continues attracting people back to these areas. That creates a difficult balance between safety and livelihood. Albay shows why recovery becomes harder when the same land provides opportunity and danger. Number 4. Batangas. Batangas faces another volcanic threat, this time from Taal. PHIVOLCS closely monitors Taal volcano for signs of changing activity. Those signs can include earthquakes, volcanic gas, ash, and other unrest. When activity rises, nearby communities can face evacuation orders and restrictions. For a boat operator, that can mean an immediate loss of income. For farmers, ashfall can damage crops and affect livestock. Tourism businesses can also lose customers when access becomes restricted. The deeper problem is repeated disruption. A family can survive an evacuation and still suffer financially afterward. Savings may disappear while replacing equipment or repairing a home. Government agencies maintain monitoring systems, hazard maps, and emergency plans. Local communities also practice evacuation procedures when conditions require them. These efforts matter. But Taal demonstrates how preparedness and vulnerability can exist together. People live near the lake because it supports homes, farms, fishing, and tourism. The same environment can also expose them to volcanic danger. Batangas therefore represents more than an eruption risk. It represents the long financial pressure created by repeated disruption. Number 5. Rizal. This province faces a particularly difficult combination of earthquake and flood exposure. PHIVOLCS identifies the West Valley Fault as a major earthquake hazard. The fault runs through the wider Metro Manila region. A major earthquake could affect communities across several boundaries at once. Rizal also has areas exposed to flooding and landslides. That means recovery could become complicated from multiple directions. For a small business owner, earthquake damage could destroy equipment and inventory. A later flood could then delay repairs and replace lost stock. That is the kind of repeated loss families fear most. Local governments conduct earthquake drills and preparedness programs. Public agencies also continue flood management and infrastructure projects. Families are learning where to evacuate and how to prepare emergency supplies. Those efforts can reduce harm. But dense development and older structures can make recovery more difficult, and a major earthquake would not stop at Rizal's border. Its effects could reach much of the capital region. That makes Rizal important far beyond the province itself. Its risk is part of a much larger metropolitan disaster problem. Number 6. Pampanga. Its disaster story began with an eruption decades ago. Mount Pinatubo erupted catastrophically in 1991. Huge amounts of volcanic material were deposited across central Luzon. That material changed rivers and flood patterns for many years. Government agencies have continued managing waterways affected by sediment. Flood control structures, drainage systems, and river management remain important. For a rice farmer, flooding can destroy months of work. One major flood can erase an entire harvest. That can mean lost income long after the water disappears. Communities have adapted through better warnings and preparedness. Engineers continue working to manage rivers and protect vulnerable areas, but the old volcanic material remains part of the landscape. That is what makes Pampanga different. A disaster does not always end when the eruption or storm ends. Sometimes it changes the environment itself. That changed environment can create new problems decades later. Pampanga is therefore a powerful lesson in long-term disaster recovery. The past can continue shaping the next disaster. Number 7. Surigao del Norte. This province faces earthquakes, severe weather, and coastal hazards. PHIVOLCS recorded a magnitude 6.7 earthquake here in February 2017. The earthquake was followed by many aftershocks. Buildings, roads, and other infrastructure were affected. For a barangay health worker, the challenge is immediate. A damaged clinic can become hardest to use when patients need it most. Road damage can also delay medicine, rescue teams, and supplies. That creates a recovery problem beyond the original earthquake. Surigao del Norte also faces powerful storms moving across the Pacific. Fishing communities depend on early and reliable weather warnings. Local disaster councils have improved preparedness and emergency planning. Communities also conduct drills and maintain evacuation procedures. But geography creates another challenge. Some communities are far from major service centers. When roads or communications fail, distance becomes even more important. That can slow recovery after a major event. Surigao del Norte shows that disaster risk is not only about hazard strength, it is also about how quickly help can reach people. Number 8. Eastern Samar. This province sits directly on the eastern edge of the Philippines. That position places it in the path of powerful Pacific storms. PAGASA monitors tropical cyclones before they approach the country's coastline. Eastern Samar can experience severe conditions before storms move farther inland. Super Typhoon Haiyan showed what that exposure can mean. The 2013 storm brought destructive winds, flooding, and coastal impacts. For a seaweed farmer, one storm can destroy an entire growing season. For a fisherman, damaged boats can mean months without normal income. Communities have strengthened shelters, evacuation systems, and warning procedures. Mangroves can also provide some protection along vulnerable coastlines, but natural defenses have limits. An exceptionally powerful storm can still overwhelm coastal communities. Repeated storms create an even harder challenge. Families may rebuild one year, then face another major storm later. That cycle can slowly drain savings and reduce resilience. Eastern Samar therefore represents more than a single storm threat. It represents the burden of repeatedly receiving the first major impact. Number 9. Zamboanga del Norte. Its major risks include flooding, landslides, and prolonged heavy rainfall. These dangers become especially serious in communities near steep terrain. DENR and local authorities use hazard assessments to identify vulnerable areas. When soil becomes saturated, slopes can suddenly fail. Flash floods can also cut roads and isolate communities. For a corn farmer, a landslide can destroy both crops and farmland. That creates a problem that cannot be fixed with one repair. The family may lose the land needed for future harvests. Some communities use vegetation and other measures to stabilize vulnerable slopes. Local disaster councils also improve warnings and evacuation plans. But relocation is difficult when families depend on nearby farmland. That is one reason recovery can become complicated. A safer location may be farther from the livelihood that supports the family. Zamboanga del Norte also reminds us of something important. Disaster risk is not limited to the country's famous typhoon coastlines. Heavy rain can create serious danger in many parts of Mindanao, and repeated flooding can quietly weaken a community's ability to recover. Number 10. Benguet. This mountain province faces earthquakes and landslides in difficult terrain. The 1990 Luzon earthquake demonstrated the destructive power of major ground shaking. PHIVOLCS continues monitoring earthquake hazards across northern Luzon. Benguet also faces landslide danger during prolonged heavy rainfall. Steep slopes can become unstable after days of rain. For a farmer, a landslide can destroy crops and access roads together. For a worker on a remote hillside, the danger can be sudden. A blocked road can also isolate an entire community. Food, medicine, school supplies, and emergency teams may all be delayed. Local disaster councils use rainfall warnings and hazard maps. Communities also practice earthquake and landslide preparedness. Road crews work to restore access after major slope failures. These measures reduce risk, but mountain geography makes every repair more difficult. One damaged road can affect many households at the same time. That makes recovery more than a construction problem. It becomes a transportation, food, health, and income problem. Benguet shows what happens when several risks overlap in the same landscape. Number 11. Camarines Sur. Its greatest recovery problem may be the repeated cycle of storms and floods. PAGASA regularly monitors tropical cyclones affecting the Bicol region. Heavy rainfall can overwhelm rivers, drainage systems, and low-lying communities. For a tricycle driver, several flooded days can mean several days without fares. For a farmer, flooding can destroy crops close to harvest. Local governments have strengthened evacuation centers and warning systems. Flood control and drainage projects also continue in vulnerable areas. Communities have learned important lessons from years of severe weather. But frequency creates a problem that one disaster cannot explain. A family can repair its home and replace belongings. Then another storm can damage them again. Savings disappear through repeated repairs. Small businesses can also lose inventory more than once. That can prevent families from building financial security. Camarines Sur therefore represents a slower kind of disaster pressure. The danger is not always one catastrophic event. Sometimes it is the exhaustion caused by repeated recovery. And that pattern can be just as damaging over time. Number 12. Iloilo. Its risk is closely connected to flooding, coastal exposure, and development. Low-lying communities can flood when intense rainfall overwhelms drainage and waterways. PAGASA provides rainfall and weather warnings for these conditions. DPWH and local governments continue flood management and drainage work. For a sari-sari store owner, floodwater can destroy stock within hours. Food, appliances, shelves, and supplies can all be damaged. Even after the water disappears, customers may stay away. That means the financial impact can continue for days or weeks. Coastal communities also face storm surge during strong tropical cyclones. Development creates jobs and opportunities, but infrastructure must keep pace with that growth. Otherwise, more homes and businesses can become exposed to flooding. Communities have responded with warnings, preparedness plans, and local projects. These efforts are important. Still, older urban areas can be difficult to redesign completely. Iloilo shows that disaster risk can grow alongside economic progress. The challenge is protecting development without allowing vulnerability to grow with it. Number 13. Palawan. Its danger is different because much of it develops slowly. Coastal erosion can gradually remove land along vulnerable shorelines. Rising sea levels can increase long-term pressure on coastal communities. Coastal resource management programs monitor shoreline changes in exposed areas. Strong storms can accelerate erosion and push waves farther inland. Saltwater can also threaten freshwater sources near the coast. For a tourism worker, the coastline is part of the family livelihood. If the beach changes, the business can change with it. For coastal families, losing land can eventually mean losing homes. Mangrove restoration can help protect some shorelines. Local communities and authorities are using coastal management in vulnerable areas. But adaptation requires time and long-term planning. This is what makes the danger easy to underestimate. There may be no single morning when everyone sees the disaster. The coastline can change little by little. By the time the danger becomes obvious, options may already be limited. Palawan shows that not every disaster arrives with a warning siren. Some disasters arrive quietly, 1 meter of shoreline at a time. Number 14. Davao Oriental. This province completes the list for a reason. Its history shows that disaster expectations can change very quickly. In December 2012, Typhoon Bofa struck Davao Oriental with destructive force. The storm brought powerful winds, flooding, and landslides. It showed that extremely strong tropical cyclones can also affect Mindanao. For a public school teacher, a major disaster can change the school overnight. Classrooms can become shelters for families who have lost their homes. Lessons stop while communities focus on survival and recovery. Farmers can lose crops, roads can be damaged, and bridges can become unusable. Local disaster systems have improved since that experience. Communities now place greater emphasis on early warnings and evacuation planning. But look at the 14 provinces together. Cebu shows earthquake risk, Leyte shows storm surge, Albay and Batangas show volcanic danger. Pampanga shows how an old disaster can create lasting problems. The remaining provinces add floods, landslides, typhoons, and coastal change. The pattern is bigger than any single province. The Philippines faces several major hazards across different regions, and repeated disasters can make recovery harder each time. That is the real story behind this list. 14 provinces reveal one connected national pattern. The Philippines is exposed to earthquakes, volcanoes, typhoons, floods, landslides, and coastal hazards. But this list does not mean these provinces are doomed. It means their exposure deserves attention before the next disaster. Government agencies, engineers, local disaster councils, and communities are preparing. Early warnings are improving. Evacuation systems are improving. Infrastructure and public awareness are improving too. But preparedness works best before the emergency begins. So ask yourself one simple question. What if the next major disaster happens closer to your home? How prepared is your family right now? Could you leave quickly if your area had to evacuate? Could your household manage if income stopped for several weeks? And was your province mentioned in these 14? Tell us your province in the comments. Tell us which disaster worries your community most. The sources behind this video are available for viewers who want to verify them. Like and subscribe to Discovering the Earth for more grounded insights.